Hello yet again, and welcome back to Compositing with Beyond Typicals. This is episode 4, and in this episode, we're focusing less on the way you're going to take the photos and more on what you do once you are in Beyond Typicals, once you have your photos, and all the different things that you can do. We're focusing specifically on construction in this episode, and I'm going to jump right into this first example, and this is a photo taken from a bridge in Minnesota, and this is kind of a cool project because you can use one BTIF file to do multiple views and multiple camera matches, and we're going to show that in this example. You can see here we have a good straight section of roadway. Again, you could not composite this and you would still get away with the cutoff edges and everything, but something like this is going to blend in and sell much better than maybe a typical beyond typical rendering. So if we go to our image and let's push it to the back, you can see here, this is what our project looks like. Let me jump first to existing, because again, you're gonna want to, when you do these construction phasing projects, you're gonna want to utilize the phasing, which is this button right here. And you can use it for phasing, you can use it for alternatives, you can even use it for sections along the alignment. But in this example, we're gonna focus on construction phasing, and you're gonna almost always want to build the existing model out first. Once you build it, you want to camera match it, and you can see some of our other videos to see how to do that. And then once that's done, you want to go to save your view. And you can see here we have two views, and I'm going to show what that means here in a second. But this is a good view. There's no foreground elements. There's no real Photoshop. We're just going to plop it right on top, and we're good to go. So once we have our existing, then you want to go and you want to just duplicate that. And then let's just show that as an example. So now we have a duplicate. So like, let's just say that we wanted to change, let's just turn on a pathway arrow. Let's turn down that speed. And now you can see in our existing, we don't have the pathway arrow, and in this duplicate, we do. And so that's how you want to do. Start by building your existing model, make a duplicate of it, and then start making the changes for the different phases of your project. Let's delete that one. Again, go to existing, and then you can see the phases. So this one is pretty simple. We have utility work, we have repaving, and we have final. So let's jump to utility work. And in this example, you can see we're utilizing the animated construction equipment. And in our library, we have both animated and static construction equipment, but this is just a really cool example where we can use this, and we can do it in a way where it's adding to and not distracting from our project. And to get the static assets, you want to go to library assets here, and then go to construction, and then you just want to drop those in. You just click them, bring it in. We're going to delete that. If you want a dynamic asset, you're going to go to dynamic. You're going to find the thumbnail for what you want, and then you click plus, and then it's going to add it here above. And once we have that, then you can go and edit the parameters, and you can change the animation speed. If we really want it to go fast, we can do that. And there are a few other minor tweaks that you can make to your construction equipment. And so let's slow that down. Let's go to 2, and let's call it good. We also are utilizing the pathway arrows and area highlights here. So we're showing green means go. Traffic can still flow over here on the right side of our picture. And then we have this area highlight here showing where the construction zone is. You can use whatever color you want. I'm using blue here. Let's see. So I'm using something like this. But if we wanted to make that orange, you can do that as well. So let's switch it back by pasting the hex code. And then we also have some other construction elements that you can grab from, again, if you go to assets, library assets, and go to construction, you can see we have construction workers, rubble, cranes, cones, barriers, and so on. If there's an asset that you need that we don't have, you can always go to import it, import new, and if you have that 3D file, if it is an FBX or an OBJ, you may be able to get that into your project that way as well. All right, so we have our utility work, we have our animation, super cool, and now we want to go to repaving. So again, in this scenario, you could either duplicate this utility work phase, or if it's easier, just go back to existing, duplicate it, and then move it down to the third area down here below. So we have repaving, we have black area highlights now to represent the asphalt. We still have our traffic flowing in each direction. And you can, one thing that's really nice is you can slow that down. If you're like, you want to emphasize the traffic will be moving slowly, you can move that really slowly here. We don't have a ton of traffic, but we can dial that up a little bit. And then here we have another piece of animated equipment, our asphalt roller, which again is really nice to add to this project. And then I also want to add that you can change the layers, the textures of the surfaces, again, to show what's going on. In a real project, when you're paving, it's going to look different than when it's existing. You might have intermediate phases where maybe it's gravel for a little while, or you have like a base layer that's different from the finished layer. And if you want to show those, you can communicate those by selecting it, going to texturing, and then if you just want to edit the top, then you just go to, you just select whichever one you want, like that. So if I wanted it to be that, or if I wanted it to be brick, or if I wanted it to be green, if it was a bike lane, for example, or if I wanted to emphasize that in this tutorial, we can do that. So get the texture that you want to really emphasize and highlight what's going on in that phase of your construction. And then let's click to final. Again, we're just doing a utility, some utility work here, and so we're not editing all these other lanes. And so if you switch between existing and final, the only difference is you can see that work's been done on that lane, and that's exactly what we want to communicate. All right, so if I jump over to the other view, you can see I have view 2 here, but it doesn't match with the photo. And that's because I brought in another image, and we're going to bring that in here. And there are actually 2 images. There's the background and the foreground. And in conjunction, these can kind of pull off this illusion that we are looking down at this road. And this was actually taken from a hotel room, many stories up in the sky, almost kind of like a drone shot. And there was a lot of foreground that needed to be done, photo editing to kind of remove the trees. If you look really closely, you can see it's not perfect, but this will sell whatever it is that you're trying to do. And so we can communicate this exact same utility work from this different view. And again, you don't have to redo the phases. All we're doing is just changing the camera and the background photos for this. So switch to utility work. You can see here we have our animated excavator, just a different view of it. We've got repaving over here. We've got our animated asphalt roller over here, and then we have our final. So this is a pretty complex example, but the basics are going to be pretty much the same, which is you want to get your image, you want to build your existing model, you want to camera match them, and then once that's done, you can set up your different phases within construction phasing. And this is how it turned out rendered, and I did render this before we had animated construction equipment, which is why they're not moving in the final render. All right, so in this second example, we have a drone shot, and it's really zoomed in and cropped in. When that happens, you want to tighten your field of view to get the camera matching. You can learn more about this project in the drone photos episode. But I want to focus on the construction phasing in this one, but the same basic elements are going to apply, which is you want to get your image, you want to build your existing road, and then you want to do your camera matching and then your phasing. So this is how the existing road looked, something like this, which is really nice. You can see here that I put some potholes in there. And these are decals, and these can be really useful. Let me pause traffic. And sometimes these are blurry. You just, for whatever reason, need to zoom in a little bit, and then they'll kind of get their full resolution. But to get those, you want to go to Assets, Library Assets, and then you want to go to Decal, and you can just drag those right onto your model. And again, it just depends on what you're trying to communicate, which in this example might be the road is beat up, it's got potholes, and we're going to fix it, and then the final version is going to be better without potholes. And so let's get our camera matching back right here. We turn on our traffic again. And so once you have the existing model and then the camera is matched, then you can go to duplicate it and start building out your phases. This is a repaving, and so this is a middle resurface. We are going in the two-way left turn and fixing that, and then the traffic's just going to stay on the edges, but we've got some protected zone with the cones. We also have our area highlights again. We've got white for traffic and yellow. You can use whatever color you want. This one we're not using animated construction equipment. We don't have animated construction paver, but we do have an animated backhoe. And then we shift traffic to the east closure over here, then to the west closure. And you can see a lot of these elements are going to be the same. You're just going to move them around when you duplicate the project. Just want to note too, when you're really zoomed in with a field of view, that the gizmo is going to get bigger. But you can always, if you want, just to zoom that out while you're working, and then you can zoom it back in when you're ready to roll. And then we have our west closure, and you can see as we're doing it, the road is getting darker because we're changing that to the asphalt fresh texture to indicate this is fresh texture, the potholes are gone, and we're ready to roll. And then our final condition here, we don't have any construction equipment, we have our fresh road, there are no potholes, there are no cracks, and it's a beautiful new thing. And this is how the final rendered looked for this. All right, in this example, this is another example where you don't have to use like a 4K image or a wide image. You can use something tall that you might get from a phone if you're holding it upright. And this is from a street in New Orleans. And this is just kind of showing a similar sort of thing. We're in a tight configuration. We want to communicate what the closures are going to be like. How are we going to maintain traffic movement during the closures? And what's it going to look like when we are done? So this is how the existing looked, something like this. And in this example, I'm not using any animations, the vehicles, the construction equipment, or anything. And the final renders are just going to be images for a slideshow. And that's another scenario that you can use depending on what you're trying to do with your PowerPoint or your project website or your public meeting. Maybe you just want to print out boards, and something like this is completely fine. Just trying to show another way that you can use beyond typicals for compositing and communicating this type of construction. All right, so now you can show we have our closure utilizing the highlights. These are moving in this example. If I rendered it, they'd be moving. But again, the goal is just going to be the images that I'm going to render out. Trenching, our construction equipment isn't moving, again, because these are photos. Shoring, you can see here we have our workers and we have our shoring. We're emphasizing the safety of this project. And then with the temporary cover, we're also showing, look, we're not going to be able to finish this in one day. When our workers go home at night, we're going to do a temporary cover. And then this is going to be the proposed. Again, if you go between existing and proposed, the biggest difference is you can see that subtle change in texture. And this is another example too, where if you zoom out far enough, you can see I've put a big building above to give us shadows because there is no direct sunlight in this project, and that's how you can kind of fake that, the shading in a scenario like this. And I also want to point out too, if you go to sections, if you haven't looked already, you might want to just look through the different trenches that we have. We have shored, we have unshored, we have covered, we have uncovered, we have kind of more of a V type ditch, we have a covered there too. And so that's how you can get something like this very quickly, is you just click that and you just drag that right in, and then you can delete it if you don't want it, like I don't. So different kind of scenario, but hopefully this gives you another example of how you can use it for something maybe like still photos for a slideshow, and you can hopefully communicate a wide variety of projects, especially as they pertain to transportation, MOT, traffic control, and so on. And this is how that turned out. And this will do it for the construction episode of Compositing with Beyond Typicals. Make sure to visit beyondcad.com. You can visit the Beyond Typicals page, you can visit the photo compositing page, and as always, you can download and try out these exact BTIP files if you click on the link in this YouTube video. And if you want to learn more about Beyond Typicals, make sure to click the Contact Us button on our website. We'd love to set up a call. This is Sam Lytle, and I will talk to you in the next one.